Vipin sir.
There is a technical issue. Maybe sir will be joining in 5 minutes.
Hello, am I audible to everyone? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. There were some technical issues since I couldn't log in. Actually, I was logged in, but I didn't hear anything. I couldn't speak as well. Now I hope it's clear. Now I'm audible as well. Correct?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I hope the introduction and everything is over. May I start my session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You may.
Okay.
We
Thank
were
you.
actually waiting for you to start.
Yeah, there was some technical issue. I couldn't do it. Fine. Thank you. Good
Yeah,
evening,
yeah.
all. I don't know who all are present, but at the outset, I thank management of Sahridaya College of Advanced Studies for giving me a session to talk about CA profession and new or emerging opportunities in CA profession. I'll little bit talk about CA because being a CA, I've been enjoying the privileges and I would say, yeah, what gives me a like pride of being a CA. I've been in employment till 2010. Then I started practicing. As you all know, chartered accountants have broadly two options. One in employment, go in employment, or second one into practice. So my choice was to go to employment initially. I worked as an international internal auditor, doing audit of various Asian countries, then UK. When in 2010, I resigned and came back to Kerala and started my own practice. Presently, I don't know what was introduced about me because I didn't hear that. But still, presently, I'm practicing as a chartered accountant. My core area of specialization is insolvency of corporates and forensic audit, and along with I'm a registered valuer also. And I would say, being a CA, I enjoyed various facilities. I enjoyed a status, better status in the community, in the society. So as you all know, it take bit effort to become a CA, that is true. But anyway, we know whatever we get useful or valuable, you have to give effort. So that's a different thing. Anyway, you have been hearing career guidance classes for a long time, so I don't want to repeat it. My session here is on two main emerging areas for a chartered accountant. Because as I said already, chartered accountancy course is considered to be one of the premier or best course which is available, due to the reason or the very reason that you have various options. Various options means you can go for employment. As I said earlier, in employment itself, you can specialize in various areas like taxation, internal finance, external investment advisory services, audit, that also internal and external audit, forensic audit, etc. That is one part of employment. And in practice also you have various options. And teaching is also another option because management trainings and teaching for students are also considered to be another option. Due to pandemic, we know, I hope all are safe and started or learned to live along with coronavirus, because now most of our way of living, way of working, way of studying, way of behaving, everything have been changed due to pandemic. And the way we look at the profession also has been changed. Now, I feel maybe in future people would categorize our era as before pandemic and after pandemic, because before corona or after corona, because a lot of things are going to change after corona. I know most of our valuable time of 2 years have almost lost. And I know I feel most of my audience would be students who are pursuing graduation, post-graduation or any professional courses, including CA. And for you people, and even for anyone, if you take the case of anybody, 2 years have been a loss. But personally, if you ask me, I have capitalized the positive part of it. These two qualifications, like being a registered insolvency professional, or to be a registered insolvency professional, you have to go through exams, classes, etc., which was earlier available only in Delhi, Bangalore, or say metros. And you have to go to various metros to write exams. But pandemic gave me an option to do all these things online. I attended classes online. I gave exam online, which saved me a lot of money, a lot of time, and I got time to do a concentrated study as well. So that was one thing I said. I capitalized the lockdown facilities I got during pandemic. Along with that, I did another course that was registered valuer. Both of these courses were given by Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, IBBI. It's a new regulator which came in after 2016, once the IBC code was introduced. For you people, IBC may not be an immediate option, actually, because to become a registered insolvency professional, I'll explain what is an insolvency professional means all. But in order to become an insolvency professional, you have to have 10 years of post qualification experience. So after becoming a chartered accountant, you have to be in service or employment for 10 years to at least appear for an insolvency exam. But valuation is you can do it within 1 year of your post qualification. So these all are after becoming chartered accountant. And let me get into various, because it's going to be CA day, and we all with a lot of pride say we all are chartered accountants, and I also with a lot of pride say that I am a chartered accountant. Even my relatives and parents, they are so proud of me becoming a chartered accountant. That's true. But when I go for career guidance classes, students used to ask me, what if I become a chartered accountant? What is the work that I do? Because making accounts and doing audits, that is what we all know a chartered accountant can do. But let me tell you, when I was in employment, being an internal auditor, I enjoyed a lot of facilities, including salary. We were given with facilities like full family accommodation. Yes, when we travel, we used to get 7-star accommodation, all flight travels. At times you used to get business travels. So those kind of facilities you get once you are in employment. But when it comes to practice, it's like you start a business you're on. Initially, you may not get all these facilities, but gradually you get into income earning or getting facilities as well. But when we come to practice, it is not only audit. There are various other areas which we can get into. So that is one area which I would say interesting in CA profession, that is forensic audit. I don't know whether you all have heard about forensic audit. You might have heard about forensic. There was a film recently released, recently means maybe 1 year back. Forensic, one film was there. And you might have heard this word quite often in newspapers whenever there is a crime or investigation happens. But that was not related to audit or accounting. It was forensic surgeon, then forensic team came to investigate, etc., etc. Forensic audit also deals with investigation. Forensic always say fraud related, because I'm a forensic auditor, and we as a team, we do work with various government investigating agencies, like CBI, ED, crime branch, then vigilance departments, and various administrators. So we have recently concluded a forensic audit with retired Chief Justice. So this is one area for chartered accountants where we can get into investigations along with these investigating agencies. We would be taken as a consultant with them. And what is our role in an investigation? There are various financial frauds happening throughout the world, and we heard a lot of financial frauds recently. Let me see. I can open a PPT for you. I don't know. I have a bit technical issues with this app because I'm not used to this. Can I have options to share this? Share my PPT. Open share tray. Hello. Who is the admin here? Hello. Okay.
Share.
Okay. I can hear you. Anyway. Microsoft Team not responding. Okay. Okay, is my PPT visible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. You might have heard about various financial frauds. You have your style icon, Vijay Mallya, standing there with 9,000 crores. Then there are various other frauds, Nirav Modi, Satyam, etc., etc. These all are related. These all are called financial frauds because many companies use their financial accounting firms or banking route to facilitate fraud. So the issue with investigating agencies, so this is a PNB Bank fraud. It's around 1.77 billion US dollars. That comes to 11,394 crores. This is all related to financial fraud. Then you have Satyam background. It is completely a financial statements fraud because financial statements were misrepresented, misstated, and the shares were sold. So this was completely a financial statement fraud. So these all are financial frauds where a chartered accountant's role comes in. Forensic audit, as you can see here, is generally referred to a comprehensive view of fraud investigation, including business methodology, forensic accounting, digital forensic, I'll discuss in later, investigation, then litigation support. You can see two major differences between normal financial audit and forensic audits. Normal financial audit, we chartered accountants normally call it compliance audit. Why we call it compliance audit means income tax authorities or corporates, Ministry of Corporate Affairs or GST department or various other regulators might need audit reports to comply various acts. So it is just for a compliance that you do an audit, finance audit. However, forensic audit is not a regular audit. It comes in or comes to picture only when there is an investigation happens. So it's a one-time, maybe non-recurring audit. Financial audit is random sampling, fair view, but here in forensic audit, you have to investigate into each and every transactions. Here, the major difference I can tell you, being a forensic auditor and normal auditor, being a forensic auditor, when I sign an appointment letter to take up an assignment of a forensic audit, I'm taking few more responsibilities. Means if I bill for a normal audit 1 lakh or 1.5 lakhs, I would bill for 10 lakhs for a forensic audit. My time for work would be same. Staff record would be same. Expertise may be a bit different, but still may not be that much difference. But I might add a huge additional fees for my assignment as a forensic auditor. The reason being, if I do a forensic audit, it should be evidence-based. When I say evidence-based, you have to have admissible evidences. Admissible evidences means your evidence should be admissible by court of law. Because there is an Evidence Act which is prevailing in India. All the evidences cannot be taken as evidence in court. So when you have evidence, it should be admissible evidence in the court of law. When you give a report, a forensic report, and conclude that there is a fraud happened, if you can conclude a fraud happened, then there should be supporting admissible evidence attached to that. Otherwise, I cannot conclude something as fraud if I don't have evidences. When I say there is a fraud and it is evidence-based, that case will almost 90% will go to court again, and court will call you as a technical person for a trial in the court. So you have to defend your report, saying that if you have concluded that there is a fraud, then you have to explain to the court or explain to the legal counsel that these are the evidences that I have to prove that there was a fraud or there is a fraud. Clear? So there is an additional liability involved in it, additional responsibility involved in it. So you can charge more and additional expertise involved in it. So that is all about forensic audit. And I hope, and I've been doing it for quite some time now. And for me, it is really interesting. And it gives a lot of opportunities for you to interact with various agencies. And it gives you some kind of, because I know since you all are young, energetic chaps, you would like to get into investigations, and who doesn't like to be part of a police department as a consultant? It would be good to have company with them. So I do enjoy that as a forensic auditor. So again, bit more explain the forensic audit need and role. Normally we get assignments or we get empaneled by CBI, SFIO. SFIO means Serious Fraud Investigation Office. That is another office of corporates, means fraud conducted by corporates. So it is been established or created by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. NIA means National Investigating Agency. EWO, Economic Offences Wing. Then CVC, Central Vigilance Commission. Then ED, you have been hearing for a long time. Many cases recently everything has been taken over by ED. ED is that Enforcement Directorate, and they normally deal with whenever there is a money laundering issues are coming up. So they are the persons who are involved in it. So ED's cases, need of a chartered accountant is required. Then regulators, SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, RBI, Reserve Bank of India. Then insolvency professional, I would get into that, IBC. I hope I'm audible to you. Am I?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then merger acquisitions, holding and subsidiary companies. Then various conventional accounting compliance requirements, litigation support, etc. I can give you an example of a recent case of a crime branch in which we were asked to assist. I cannot disclose the complete details of it, but I can tell you crime branch department has been behind the case for almost 4 years. And they have got all the information, all bank statements, all financial statements, everything in their custody. And when they came to us to assist them as a consultant, forensic auditor, they had a complete box of documents available with them, hard copies. They said there is a clear fraud, but they cannot establish it because when you go to court, you cannot give the entire big box to the justice or judge over there and tell him there is a fraud and we have to find it out from all these papers. They cannot do it. They have to clearly take out the conclusion from all those documents and submit to them. But you cannot expect all the policemen to be chartered accountants or expert in financial matters. How can we expect that? Because they came to a different stream. But of course, there are chartered accountants who have become, say, policemen. I can give you one example, very example. Most of you would be the part of Thrissur district. Thrissur rural SP. He has just transferred to Palakkad, transferred as Palakkad chief, police chief. Vishwanath IPS, he was rural SP in Thrissur. He is a chartered accountant. He cleared CA, then worked for 2 years as a chartered accountant. Then he attempted civil service and became an IPS officer. And so he is the police chief now. So we cannot always say that all the chartered accountants, so all the policemen are not that good in accounts, but most of them are not good in accounts. So they came to us with all these documents and they said, we need to conclude there is a fraud with evidences. Then we help them because not with the hard copies, we received all the soft copies. Then we have now various techniques. That is what is called digital forensics. Digital forensic is also very interesting because you can take out various like digital evidences out of it. So when we handle forensic audit nowadays, we don't look into hard copies at all. We may see the approval letters, signed ones, even if it is signed, whether it is forged or not. And those things we look into, but otherwise, most of the frauds can be triggered out through online sources or digital forensic. Nowadays, all the fraudulent activities are happening online than the actual physical fraudulent activities. So when you become a forensic auditor, you have to be an expert in IT sector as well. Not in programming, etc., but at least basic IT knowledge should be there. So that's why whenever we do forensic certification, we also go for digital forensics certification also. So it's a blend of both. Nowadays, IT is not separate from any other stream. IT is part and parcel of any section you work. So that is where then we work with them. We took out all the online transactions and we summarized it. When they came up with one box, our report was just 8 pages, this executive summary of the report, and it was clearly linked to all admissible evidences. And within 6 months, that crime branch CI become crime branch DYSP. So that is something we can support them. So we'll also get another support, other supports from them as well. So these all are the way you work as a forensic auditor. So that is another area where a chartered accountant can get into. Forensic audit key challenges. That's what which I just mentioned. Law enforcement agencies investigators lack key skills different than conventional crimes, forensic accounting and digital forensics. Lack of blended skills talent pool. But not always. Now, most of these agencies have started creating a talent pool, including consultants, chartered accountants and forensic auditors, advocates, etc., etc. Because recently SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Unit of Delhi, they advertised positions for chartered accountants, forensic auditors as a consultant with them, means full-time consultants, not as assignment basis. They'll pay you very good salary. It was somewhere around 3 lakh plus facilities. You will be provided with that salary and all, and they'll have the team who would work only for them, not for this. So you cannot do any other audits. You would be with them, not as a staff, but as a consultant. So that is another new thing coming up. So all these agencies will have a chartered accountants group to investigate into financial fraud, etc. And limited awareness of the best approach to follow fraud unknown value, how it was done, who all are involved. Then evidence may have been deleted. Yeah, because when we do online frauds, normally all these fraudsters, they normally delete, erase all the information, all the evidences from the system itself. But when you do digital forensics, you can understand, or you learn that all those erased, all those deleted many times back can be retrieved through various means, and your phone calls are being traced. When, from which date they were started tracing your phone calls is a beauty of it, because many times we believe that if somebody has started, somebody has done fraud and police agencies started investigating on him, on that case, and started following him, it is not that point when they started tapping your calls or recording your calls. When you start discussing with them, you realize that your calls are being recorded many days before committing fraud itself, because whenever there is a slight indication given to them that there is something going to happen, something is smelling, then they'll start recording and tracking all the phone calls. So this is also part of digital. Then hacking is there. You may find, or you may feel that all your conversations, all your WhatsApp messages, all your whatever mail transactions are safe. No, not really. All are being tracked, and it can be tracked in future also. So that's where the technology comes in picture. So forensic auditor, being a chartered accountant, he also has to be an IT, at least a basic IT skill person also. Okay, that is what is called digital evidences. Digital evidences are admissible evidences in court of law now. Let me see how much time I have left with. Okay. Yeah, forensic audit methodology, just identify the problem and scope. Then you analyze, investigate, and collect evidences. Collection of evidences is the crucial part of a forensic audit, because you might have seen various films, investigating films, in that collection of evidence is very important, because otherwise that will not stand in court of law, because you may feel that he is a culprit And if you don't have proper evidence, proper means admissible evidence, then that case would not stand the court of law. So your reporting part is crucial. In a normal compliance audit, you are just giving an opinion that the financial statements gives a true and fair view. So you are not saying that it is accurate and 100% correct. You are just saying that it is kind of true and fair. There may be fraud, there may be issues, but during my process of audit, which I have conducted based on the accounting standards, auditing standards, etc., there might be some fraudulent activities which might not have detected during the process of audit. So there are a lot of disclaimers you give when you do a normal compliance audit. But when it comes to forensic audit, you cannot have disclaimers in that. Either you should report that there is fraud. The moment you say there is fraud, then there should be admissible evidences along with that. Otherwise, if you don't have 100% sure or 100% evidences, then your report should say that I do not have conclusive evidence to prove that there is a fraud happened. Hope you are clear. Then based on your report, there might be legal action against the culprit. Then he might go to the higher court for appeal. Then you would be called for trial to prove or to present your findings. Yeah, these all are normal system that we do. It's like who might be the culprit. It's better if you rather I explain all these things. Better go and watch a James Bond movie or some other investigation movies. You would better get understanding of it. Like who might be the culprit? Yes, always we look for a person. There always in cinemas you will get 2 to 3 persons as suspected people, and then you trace them and you will have a new one coming up as the actual culprit. So then what happened? Why allegations might be true? Then what methods were used to find out whether were used for fraud? When did the fraud happen? How did the fraud happen? Then evidences. Where is the evidence? In the accounts, off books, direct or circumstantial, potential witnesses. These all you have to think about. Does theory fit evidence? Revise and amend. Is evidence sufficient? A big question. Is evidence sufficient? Sufficient means it should be admissible. Analyzing documentation. You would interviewing skills that you have to develop, because when you do the forensic audit course, they will train you to do proper interview during the investigation process. So that is very key. Body languages shall be observed, and based on that you have to do the analysis, etc. It's again a big maybe 1 month course to do how to do an interview of suspected people. Then you have data analysis and mining, because mining is a skill. You have to mine, data mining. It's also an IT skill that you have to develop. Digital forensics, good to do it, good to learn it, very interesting. Then there are various technologies emerging day to day. Every day you can find something new coming up, some new technology. So you should be updated with whatever technological advances are happening around. Yeah, data analysis and mining, leave it. It's like various CAT tools that we use. I don't think you should get into that, because when you decide to becoming a forensic auditor or decide to assist a forensic auditor in future, these all are something which you would be doing, but there won't be any point or there won't be any use if I discuss in detail all these things here, because just you understand forensic audit is interesting. Normally when it is interesting and rewarding, there are risk and hard work attached along with that you have to take care of, because always you would see that investigating team always get into risk, and we all are not superheroes. we may not always get out of troubles. So that all we have to take risk. We have to be conservative in all these things. That all different skills that we need to develop. All right, digital forensic process, seizure and preservation. Then acquisition and recovery, preliminary analysis, investigation, conclusion and reporting. Seizure and preservation and all. Yeah, nowadays, earlier when income tax authorities come for a investigation, search, etc., they get into our office, our houses, means our client's office, residents, and all those warehouses, and they seize all physical documents. But now you know what happens. The moment they come in, they unplug the systems, laptops, everything. Immediately they take out the pen drives and all connection. All digital devices would be seized or taken away first. Then they take out all pen drives, all like related email details, etc., etc. So they are aware that nowadays you get everything, all information from online records. So most of things are saved in cloud or Google Drive or wherever. Everything is being extracted and scrutinized by the departments. So that's what we also do when we assist them. Yeah. It's about forensic audit. And admin, how many minutes I have more? Hello.
10 minutes, sir.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Yeah. Within 10 minutes, I'll complete my IBC also. It's just 3 slides, I would say. IBC is a new area for chartered accountants. This is a new act or code which is approved by the Parliament in 2016. Still, we all are soldiers, like we all are learning the sections and implementation of it. This is mainly aimed at sick companies or stressed companies. You know, you might have seen films like earlier receivers or liquidators, whether you are aware of it or I don't know. But still, here the role of a liquidator, insolvency professional, resolution professional, everything, because once you become a registered registered insolvency professional, you can be appointed as resolution professional or liquidator or receiver or administrator of a company. But it means you would be given responsibility of the management of a company. So you would be the management of the company, because entire management would be suspended and you would be appointed as the governing body of the company. So see, if there is a big company like Reliance, if there is an issue or if it is stressed, they would suspend the management and appoint you as the manager of that company, and that your role would be to manage the company for at least 6 months. And during the process of 6 months, there is a clear procedure given in the act. You would try to revive the company. Company would be a sick company or a stressed company. Then your role is to revive the company, get the company into track and make it working, and hand over to the new management. New management means you would call for management experts or new companies to come up and submit a resolution plan to revive the company and hand over the company to that person. So initially 6 months of the entire process, you would be doing that as a resolution professional. After 6 months, if you cannot revive a company, then that company will be moved to a liquidation process. In that case, you will be appointed as a liquidator of the company. Once you are appointed as a liquidator of the company, again, your aim is to revive the company and make the company or sell the company as a going concern. Going concern means you will be trying to sell the company as such, not the assets. If you cannot sell the company as a going concern, then as a next step, you would be selling the assets of the company and settle the liabilities in a water flow method. So that is, there is a priority system, preferential system given in the act. So you would be settling the liabilities of the company and that company would be wound up. So that is the role of a liquidator here. So mostly management professionals, advocates, company secretaries, cost accountants, chartered accountants, all can become insolvency professionals if they have 10+ years of experience or 15+ years of experience, respectively, according to various profession. But here I can see that most of the insolvency professionals in India are chartered accountants. So near about 70 to 80% chartered accountant, insolvency professionals are chartered accountants as well. So it's a new area. You will be paid well, and when it comes to liquidation, you get the percentage of the assets that is being sold and settled by the liquidator. So it's a new area for chartered accountants once you have 10 years of experience. So insolvency and bankruptcy code, no issues. And NCLT is the adjudicating authority here. NCLT means National Company Law Tribunal. And IBBI is the governing body for insolvency professionals. IBBI means Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, which has been created after the Act came into force in 2016. Then IBBI regulates the limited insolvency exams, registration, empanelment, and monitoring and implementation of IBC, etc., etc. So that's my presentation. Okay. I hope I have stopped sharing now. All right. So it's all about forensic audit and insolvency. Insolvency may be a bit far for you as young professionals. Like once you qualified CA, you have to have 10 years of professional post-qualification experience to become an insolvency professional. But forensic audit you can do immediately after you qualify chartered accountancy exam. Once you become, you can be part of a forensic team of any of the CA firms or Big Four audit firms. Even you can join as a trainee for the initial 1 or 2 years, then you can get into their core team of forensic. And if you get into a Big Four forensic team and all, it will be very interesting, and you will be able to handle major fraudulent activities. I don't know, before from pandemic initiated, I would say there were various fraudulent activities happened. It's because there were a lot of opportunities, because there is a fraud triangle, normally people say. The experts, there is a theory of fraud triangle. Fraud triangle means there are 3 main reasons behind fraud. That's what they say normally. These are: 1, opportunity. Because whenever there is an opportunity, there is a kind of tendency to do fraud. Because like if you have 1 crore rupees credited to your account and no one has asked you for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, normally you may not go behind that and ask to the bank, why, how come money received my bank account. You might use it because there is an opportunity for you to use it. But law says even if 1 rupee comes to your account which is unaccounted, and if it is not yours, you have to report back to the bank immediately. So if 1 crore comes to your account and nobody asked, you are liable to report that to the bank. But you might feel that Why should I report? Because that has come to me without my involvement. So I haven't done any fraud. So without not informing that to the bank itself is a fraud. So that is what is called, when you have an opportunity, normally good people like us also get into fraud. Due to online banking and online transactions, digital world, digital India, etc., many things happening online, there are various options, various opportunity for people to do fraud. And young people, not a major population, but still a decent population of India is involved in online frauds, and they consider it as their livelihood. So we have more work to do on that. May not be always success, but still you can try to get into this. But I don't know, after pandemic, many people have changed, mindset have changed, perceptions have changed. Don't know whether pandemic has made good to us or bad to us, but as seen, I have witnessed that many people have changed in a positive way. We all realize that money is not the end, and relationships is important. Hour of need, that is also something which we have witnessed. And relationships, yes, we all learn to include people. Some inclusion is a value, you all know. Inclusion means include everyone without considering their negatives, disabilities, their status, their financial or other status, etc., etc. Include everyone. So we started learning that. We started including everyone into our life. Just because we learned that during the last 2 years, many things, many people, or many things, I would say, means money, our wealth, our connections might not have helped us, because I have witnessed people lost their life when they have huge 3 to 4 crores bank balances available. So they had enough money, but they lost their life because money was not enough to get a bed, oxygen bed in the hospitals. So people realize that that is one way. And I also have witnessed one of my relative who lost life when he had doctors and nurses available in-house. So he was living with doctor and nurse, still he lost his life. So we all realize that inclusion is important. Inclusion is a value. It's not we all are safe. It's not we always get support from the people that we think will get support, but we definitely will get support from people who might we feel that useless. So we don't know who is going to help us. So now I feel maybe we all would be jobless if we get into forensic audit, just because people would stop doing fraud. We'll have a good world. So I started saying forensic audit is an opportunity, but now I say being people perceptions have changed and people have changed. Fraud may not be there in future, and we all may be jobless, and that is also positive in one way. I think I have exceeded, and sorry for the technical issues I had in the initial hours or initial minutes, because I don't know what happened, and I'm not that good in Teams app. I normally use Zoom or Google Meet, so that was the reason for that. Otherwise, if you have any doubts, you can ask, and it's over from my side. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes. My doubt is, who can appoint a forensic auditor?
Forensic auditor, it's again, as I said, when it is an insolvency resolution process, normally insolvency professional would appoint a forensic auditor. Like in the IBC, you have to do a forensic audit. So normally insolvency professionals are they appoint the forensic auditor. When it comes to banks, corporates, the management appoints a forensic auditor. When we give support to various government agencies, as I said earlier, CBI or crime branch, etc., the department appoints you as a forensic auditor. So it's like normally for us, we get appointments from management of the company when they feel that there is an indication of fraud, and from insolvency professionals for IBC related assignments, then departments when it related to government investigating agencies. Hope that was your question. Right?
Yes, sir. I recently heard about SEBI. I think SEBI, is it possible SEBI can appoint?
Yes. SEBI also very well appoint forensic auditors. There is a system of empanelment of forensic auditors by various banks, SEBI, because I mentioned here no, because normally these agencies in my sheet, there were various agencies, various regulators, they appoint forensic, even FCA appoints.
Okay, thank you, sir.
SEBI banks and all empanel forensic auditors, and whenever there are assignments, they call from the empaneled list.
Okay.
Sir,
Yep,
good
please.
evening. Sir, is it only limited to chartered accountants, or other financial professionals can also do this forensic auditing and all, like CMA?
Yes. You all can do forensic audit. You can, in order to do forensic auditing, you need to give a certification. You need to get a certification. Like FAFT is a certification given by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. FAFT stands for Forensic Accounting and Fraud Detection. It's a certification course. Then you have international certification. USA certification is also there. Certified Fraud Examiner, CFE. So once you qualify CMA, you can go for CFE as well, Certified Financial Fraud Examiner. So once you clear that, you can also get into this area of expertise. Okay, once you clear the certification, you have to go and join some firms who are conducting forensic audits to gain experience. So experience matters than certification here. Okay, that's what I said. In forensic audit, you can start from the day one, unlike insolvency assignments. Insolvency, you have to wait for 10 years after qualification, but forensic, you can start from the next day. All right. And one more suggestion, sorry. This is the right time to start any courses like this, CFE and all, because you get everything online. All the exams are online, so you save a lot on cost, and you have time to study as well. Make maximum utilization of it.
Sir, so we don't have to complete like CA or CMA or anything for that?
That I need to check, because for CFE, I think graduation is required. Only graduation is required. And FAFT, they conduct only after post qualification. It's a post qualification course. FAFT, conducted by ICA.
Okay, thank you.
But CFE you can do after graduation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, am I audible to you?
Not really. Now it's audible.
Okay.
No, I can't hear you properly. I can't hear you. Still not. I don't know, is it my technical issue? I am not able to hear properly, and it's raining here as well, a bit heavily. Is it because of that? I don't know. Am I audible?
Offered by our institute, in particular in relation to forensic audit after doing after your post qualification of CA or something like that. Our institute is actually offering in relation to forensic audit any certification like designs is our certification course is provided by ICAI, right? Same likewise for forensic audit, any certification in particular for chartered accountants only, like that. I don't know. It's my
Okay.
doubt.
Okay. I heard only part of your doubt, but I think your question was whether Institute of Chartered Accountants of India provides any certification course on forensic audit. Is it?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah, that's what I said. The certification course provided by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is the FAFT course. FAFT means Forensic Accounting and Fraud Detection. That is the certification course provided by ICAI. Once you clear CA, you can appear for that. And that
Thank you,
too,
sir. Thank you so much.
it's again, as I tell you, it's a correct time to do it, because when I did FAFT, I had to attend classes in Hyderabad Knowledge Center for 8 days. Then we had only quarterly exam centers, quarterly exams, and centers were in Delhi, Bangalore, etc. And I did my exam. I gave my exam in Delhi, and I cleared the exam. So now, but everything is online available. Even the exams are online. Classes are also online. So who are doing certification courses now can save a lot of money, time too.
Any more questions from the student side? Or teachers, you can ask questions. Otherwise, we can conclude the program. Hopefully, there is no issue. Everything is clear for them. Maybe.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, for a vote of thanks, our chartered accountancy student, Dia Maria Albert, I welcome her to give a vote of thanks. Dia Maria Albert.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, you're audible, Dia.
Okay.
Audible. Yeah.
Good evening to all. Our respected HOD Thomas sir, our professional coordinator Karuna ma'am, our most valued invited guest CA Vibin Vincent sir, faculty members, and dear participants. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this event to all dignitaries assembled here Let me first of all start by giving glory to the Almighty for making today's occasion a resounding success. On the behalf of Sahardaya College of Advanced Studies and its professional department, I would like to thank our resource person, CA Vibin Vincent sir, for sparing his time from his busy schedule to grace this webinar by giving an excellent coverage on the topic Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code and Forensic Auditing. Thank you, sir. I would like to express our gratitude to our HOD Thomas sir for his presence and guidance. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank our professional coordinator, Karuna ma'am, for her moral support and encouragement. And I'm happy to express my thanks to all of our faculties who had helped to make this webinar a grand success. Last but not least, I thank all of my dear friends for your cooperation in making this webinar a resounding success. Once again, I thank all of you for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Thomas sir and Karuna ma'am, because since I missed the first session, means introduction section, I didn't know who all were there in the meeting. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.